My name is Charlotte Whitaker. I'm 39 years old, and as far as my family knew, I was still scrubbing pots in a roadside cafe off Highway 50 in rural Nevada. That was 4 years ago, the last time I stepped foot in my family home in Cedar Falls, Colorado. My sister Veronica stood by the farmhouse sink that night, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she eyed my faded jacket and dusty boots. "You're nearly 40, Charlie," she said, voice laced with sugar and poison. Still washing dishes, still wasting your life." My brother Caleb leaned against the doorframe in his tailored vest and Oxford shoes. "We tried to help after whatever that FBI thing was," he added. "Right. The FBI thing, as they like to call it, because to them, every federal badge looked the same. That's what they called my 9 years as a federal agent, my time in Quantico, the hostage negotiations, the commendations. To them, it was a phase I failed at. They'd invited me for Sunday dinner, but it wasn't dinner. It was an ambush. Veronica announced her engagement to her tech millionaire fiancé, Spencer Hollingsworth, and then, without blinking, told me I wasn't invited to the wedding. "It's not personal," she lied. "Spencer's family is very refined. I can't have them knowing my sister is like this." Like this. The poor sister. The embarrassment. Caleb slipped a check from his silver money clip and pushed it across the table. $5,000. Enough to get a real job or go back to school. "But Charlotte, please don't contact us again until you're presentable." I stared at the check for a long second. To them, it was generosity. To me, it was a price tag. I left it there, and I walked out. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that I hadn't been working in a cafe for years. I'd been operating undercover for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, embedded inside a black market network trafficking women from rural towns to the West Coast. The greasy uniforms, the rundown apartment photos, the second-hand pickup truck, all of it was part of my cover. 4 years, 18-hour days, sleepless nights, hidden recording devices, meetings in abandoned barns and dim-lit motels. 4 years earning the trust of men whose names would make senators nervous. They thought I was broken. They had no idea I was building a case that would break an entire criminal empire. 4 years of walking on a tightrope over hell to save people whose names will never make headlines. And yet, to Veronica and Caleb, I was still the family embarrassment, the sister who never made anything of herself. While they were sipping champagne at charity galas and closing real estate deals, I was serving as a senior tactical agent with Homeland Security Investigations Special Response Team, SRT, one of only 52 women, nationwide in the federal government's highest risk interdiction unit. My salary was almost triple Caleb's law firm income. My clearance level was high enough that even saying its name could get me court-martialed. But they didn't know. They couldn't know. Not until the mission was over and the monsters were in handcuffs. The takedown happened on a cold February morning in 2024. 22 arrests, 5 states, 4 international extradition orders. 3 of the men we captured had been on the FBI's top 15 most wanted list for years. And the undercover case I built from a dingy truck stop kitchen in Nevada had collapsed one of the largest trafficking networks in the western United States. That Thursday, my supervisor called. "Agent Whitaker?" he said, voice rarely that gentle, "Pack your real clothes. You're going home." Home? I hadn't heard that word without flinching in a long time. Veronica's wedding was that Saturday at Silver Pines Country Estate, the same place where Mom and Dad renewed their vows before the accident. Caleb had texted the wedding details months ago, probably assuming I'd never show my face. I almost didn't. Part of me wanted to buy a one-way ticket to Maine, rent a cottage near the cliffs, and sleep for a month. But another part, the 12-year-old girl who was always introduced as Veronica's sister. The other one wanted to stand in the light for once. So I drove straight from headquarters, my black government-issued Chevy Suburban snow dusting its hood. And I didn't wear a dress. I wore my formal Special Response Team dress uniform, deep navy tailored adorned with the silver badge of Homeland Security investigations. Pinned over my heart were my ribbons, the DHS Distinguished Service Medal, the Joint Meritorious Unit Award, the Combat Action Badge from my Army years, and the Medal of Valor. Everything they said I'd never be. Every sacrifice they never saw. And I walked through the doors just as the music began. I could have shown up in a simple dress. I could have slipped into the back pew like a shadow and left before anyone noticed. But I didn't. For once in my life, I wanted my family to see me not the version they invented, but the woman I actually became. Security at Silver Pines Country Estate was minimal, one tired-looking attendant in an ill-fitting blazer checking invitations. He glanced up as my boots hit the marble. His eyes flicked to my badge, the DHS insignia, the ribbons on my chest. "Good afternoon, Agent," he said softly, stepping aside without a single question. No invitation required. The ceremony had already begun. From the doorway, I saw Veronica standing under the floral arch, stunning in her silk gown, her hand resting delicately in Spencer Hollingsworth's arm. My brother Caleb stood proudly beside them, best man looking polished in his tailored suit, perfect hair, perfect smile, perfect life. I took the last row behind a cluster of Spencer's relatives debating interest rates and ski homes in Aspen. A few guests glanced at me, military posture, law enforcement dress uniform, but most turned back to the vows. The irony nearly made me laugh. The sister they'd cast out for being a waitress was now sitting 30 feet away in full Homeland Security formal uniform, the same one I'd worn receiving a Medal of Valor 4 months earlier. They had no idea. The ceremony ended, kisses, applause, camera flashes. Veronica moved through the crowd like royalty. Caleb shook hands with senators and CEOs. Neither of them looked my way. It wasn't until the reception, when champagne flowed and the string quartet started their second set, that it happened. I was by the bar, a club soda in hand, when I heard Spencer's mother, elegant in pearls and condescension, speaking to a semicircle of relatives. "Veronica's family is lovely," she said. "Though I understand her sister has had difficulties. Some kind of dishwashing job. No stability. Very sad." An older man, Spencer's uncle, an investment banker, sighed knowingly. "Military types often can't adjust to civilian life. They spiral." Spencer's mother gave a practiced smile. "Oh, she wasn't truly military. Just some failed security position." Veronica was terribly embarrassed. I didn't turn away. I walked toward their conversation, uniform, crisp metals catching the chandelier light, ready for the first time in my life to speak. And to watch the lies crumble. If you don't want to miss what happens when Charlotte finally steps forward and every lie begins to unravel, make sure to subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive, and the next chapter is one you won't want to miss. "She works in some rundown roadside cafe, barely getting by," Spencer's mother said delicately, as though poverty were a contagious disease. That familiar burn rose in my chest, the same one I'd felt in my parents' kitchen 4 years ago. Except this time, I wasn't undercover. I wasn't sworn to silence. This time, I could speak. I stepped forward. "Excuse me," I said calmly. "I couldn't help but overhear you talking about Veronica's sister." Spencer's mother turned, lips parting as she finally noticed my uniform. The room seemed to pause around us. "Oh, Marshall." "Agent, are you here on duty?" she stammered. "Actually," I replied evenly, "I'm Veronica's sister." Silence. Total. Breathless. Her eyes swept over me again, really seeing this time. The polished navy uniform of Homeland Security investigations, the 5-point star badge, the silver rank pins, the ribbon bar across my chest, years of service stitched into color and metal. "There seems to be a misunderstanding about my career," I continued. "I'm Special Agent Charlotte Whitaker, Homeland Security Investigations Special Response Team." A few guests gasped. For the past 4 years, I've been undercover building a case against a trafficking ring operating across 6 states. On Monday, we executed coordinated raids. 22 arrests, 48 victims recovered, 4 of them children. Spencer's uncle, the investment banker, had turned ghost white. You're federal senior tactical agent, yes. Before that, Army Military Police 2 deployments. I was awarded the Combat Action Badge and Distinguished Service Medal. Spencer's mother blinked like she might faint. That's when Veronica appeared, stunning in lace and Pearl's eyes narrowing as she noticed the cluster of people around me. Charlotte, she breathed. What are you wearing? Why are you here? I turned to her. She really looked at me this time, not through me. Her gaze moved from my face to my badge, to the rows of ribbons over my heart. Congratulations on your wedding, I said softly. I don't understand, she whispered. You've been bussing tables at that diner for years. No, I said. That was my cover. She shook her head, eyes watering. You're lying. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my credentials, black leather, silver seal, my photo in uniform. I handed it to her without a word. Veronica's hands trembled as she opened it. Spencer leaned in, his breath caught. Oh my God, he whispered. You're actually a federal agent. Special Response Team, I confirmed calmly. We handle high-risk fugitive operations and deep cover missions. The room had gone still until Caleb pushed through the circle of onlookers, his expression caught between confusion and irritation. What's going on here? He demanded. Then his eyes landed on me. Charlotte, what the hell are you wearing? I turned toward him, voice steady. This is my formal uniform. Then, with just enough edge to cut through the noise, Caleb meet Special Agent Charlotte Whitaker, Homeland Security Investigations. I let it hang there for a beat. You might remember her as your dishwasher sister. His mouth opened, then closed. Twice. He looked me over from the pressed navy jacket to the silver badge glinting under the chandelier, to the rows of medals across my chest, each one a story of risk and endurance. That's impossible, he stammered. You washed out of the army. You've been working odd jobs for years. I didn't wash out of anything, I said evenly. I completed my service with distinction. I was recruited into federal law enforcement. My starting salary as an agent was higher than your first 3 years combined at the firm. Laughter murmured softly from the crowd, people exchanging looks as realization sank in. Spencer's mother looked stricken. His uncle had gone completely pale. Even the waitstaff lingered at the doorway, sensing they were witnessing something extraordinary. But the money, Caleb said weakly. You were struggling to pay rent. My rent was part of my cover, I replied. The government provided the apartment along with a federal salary, full benefits, and hazard pay. I wasn't struggling, Caleb. I was surviving. Veronica was crying now, mascara streaking across her perfect bridal makeup. Why didn't you tell us? She asked, voice trembling. Because I couldn't, I said gently. My cover had to be real. Even to my family. I hesitated, meeting both of their eyes. And because you made it clear you were ashamed of who you thought I was. You uninvited me, Veronica. You handed me money, Caleb, like I was some charity case. You told me not to call until I'd got my life together. They both went quiet, shame settling heavy in the air. I'm sorry, Veronica whispered, barely audible. Charlotte, I'm so sorry. I nodded. I know. And I did know. She looked shattered, her pride cracking under the weight of the truth. Then, to my surprise, Spencer's mother stepped forward, her voice unsteady. Agent Whitaker, I owe you a sincere apology for my words and for my assumptions. I gave a small nod. Ma'am, apology accepted. I've dealt with worse under gunfire. A few people laughed softly. The tension eased just enough for me to breathe. For the first time in years, my family wasn't looking down at me. They were looking up, finally seeing who I truly was. You said what you believed was true, I told Spencer's mother softly. based on what you knew. No harm done. But there had been harm, and we all felt it. Not to me. I had never been stronger. The damage was to what could have been years of trust, closeness, family lost, because they couldn't see beyond their definition of success. "Will you stay?" Veronica asked, voice unsteady. "For the reception, I don't deserve it. But I want you here. I want everyone to meet my sister, the federal agent I'm actually proud of." I studied her face, the sister I once idolized, and later survived without. I thought of the girl I was 12 years old, trying to be like her, and the woman I became, who learned to stand alone. "I'll stay for a while," I said. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of introductions and apologies. Spencer's family shifted, completely gone was the polite judgment replaced by respect. His father, a federal judge, spoke to me with understanding. He'd worked alongside marshals for decades. His uncle asked thoughtful questions about my service overseas. They didn't pity me. They saw me. Veronica stayed glued to my side, introducing me to every guest as my sister, Special Agent Charlotte Whitaker, Homeland Security. Pride laced her voice, but so did guilt, the kind that lingers. Near the end of the night, Caleb found me outside on the patio, hands shoved into his pockets. No suit jacket, just vulnerability. "Charlie," he said quietly, "I need to apologize. What I said 3 years ago, it was cruel. And wrong." "Yes," I said evenly. "It was." He nodded, accepting it. "Is there any way we can start over?" I looked at him. Not the flawless lawyer, but a man finally humbled. "I don't know," I replied honestly. "I'm not the same person I was. I don't need your approval anymore, or anyone's." He swallowed. "I understand. But I'd still like to try." I didn't answer right away, but I nodded just once. Later that night, I drove away from Silver Pine's country estate headlights, cutting through the quiet Colorado dusk. My dress uniform was still immaculate, my badge still warm against my heart. I thought of the girl I once was kneeling in our kitchen being told I was nothing, and of the woman I had become who hunted traffickers, rescued the voiceless, and walked into that wedding not to be seen, but to stand. People say the best revenge is living well, but sometimes the best revenge is becoming exactly who you were meant to be, whether anyone applauds or not. I never thought I'd be standing in front of all of you, not as someone who needed saving, but as someone who finally saved herself. If you've come this far into my story, I want to ask you something from the bottom of my heart. Don't let my fight be forgotten. If you believe I did the right thing by standing up for myself, by protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, please let me know in the comments. Tell me what you would say to someone like me, who walked into a room full of people who once doubted her wearing the truth on her chest. I would love to hear your thoughts, your support, or even your judgment. And if you want to walk beside me into the next chapter, into what happens after the truth explodes in that wedding hall, then please subscribe, stay, and don't miss what comes next. Your support doesn't just help the story, it tells the world that strength, dignity, and justice matter. And if there's one thing I've learned that I wish I could give to anyone listening, it's this: do not let someone else's definition of success become the prison you live in. People will underestimate you. They will label you, dismiss you, even walk away from you. Let them. Your worth is not defined by who claps for you, but by who you choose to become when no one is watching. Keep going. Build quietly. Work in silence if you must. And one day when you're ready, walk back into the room, not to prove them wrong, but to show yourself that you were always enough. Stay kind, stay strong, and never apologize for outgrowing the cage you were placed in.